Welcome to this REBA CPD video specifying sanitaryware today, covering the key factors we recommend you consider when specifying sanitaryware. The Sanitaryware company has been born out of over 100 years of knowledge and experience in the washroom market. They cover projects over the whole of the UK with offices in both Northamptonshire and Staffordshire, and are able to assist you with specifying sanitaryware for projects you may be working on by providing technical information and advice, arranging samples, mood boards if they are required, and creating project-specific NBS specifications. A good sanitaryware supplier will be able to provide you with the following: design advice, 2D CAD blocks, technical product data sheets, standard NBS documents, bespoke specification writing service, dedicated project manager, customer service team, product guarantee, and easy contact options. The learning aims of this CPD are usage, design, building regulations and standards, along with budget, and how each of these factor into what sanitaryware items are specified for a project. When specifying sanitaryware, considering the nature of your environment, the type of building, and the market sector will very much determine the product you choose and what characteristics are most important in that decision. When specifying projects in the commercial sectors, there are several factors to consider. The look of an item may be a key consideration for commercial projects depending on the areas. For example, a high-end office project may consider this the most important factor in the decision on sanitaryware. In this situation, wall-hung WCs, vessel basins, and brassware available in stylish finishes such as matte black would be considered. Whereas in a warehouse factory washroom, the overall look of the items may fall much lower down the list of considerations. Durability and resistance to vandalism may be considerably higher. Projects within the education sector will need to consider some other factors to commercial projects. In addition to vandalism and durability, which must be considered in the same way as in the commercial sector, health and safety must be a key consideration. TMV3 valves should always be fitted in the education sector to prevent scalding. There are several regulations to consider in the education sector which specifically relate to the washroom environment. BS 6465 offers a scales of provisions for all non-residential washroom facilities, giving guidelines for nursery, primary, secondary, and further education washrooms. This will be covered in more detail later in the video along with examples. The first consideration when specifying sanitaryware for the healthcare environment should always be compliance with any regulations. The regulations which would have a bearing on the sanitaryware are HBN 0010 Part C for England and SHT M64 in Scotland. This covers guidelines for sanitaryware assemblies in healthcare environments. We will go into more detail about these during the regulation and standards section of this video. The aesthetics of products are most important in residential projects, and this is often linked to the budget for the overall scheme. If it is a private bathroom refurbishment where you are working directly with the client on their own bathroom, they will want to pick items based on how they look and fit in with the overall style of not just the bathroom but their whole house, so the decision may rest on their personal preference. For projects where you are working on a residential development which is to be sold on or rented to a third party, the client may not have so much of a fixed design or style they want to achieve. For these types of jobs, you may need to consider the durability of the products and how they will fit into the overall budget for the project. For new homes, water saving has to be considered. The Code for Sustainable Homes and Part G of the Building Regulations lays out guidelines on the amount of water that each home should use. It is set at 125 litres per person per day. For these projects, showers are normally used rather than baths to reduce water. Taps which have a low flow rate per minute and WC cisterns which have a dual flushing with low effective flush volumes will all help to achieve this standard. Within the hotel and leisure sector, the considerations are similar to those we have just covered for residential projects. However, there are a few additional considerations such as maintenance. In most hotels, there is only a small window of time where all rooms have to be cleaned and turned around for a new guest. Wall-hung WCs are very useful to help with this. They are suspended off the floor by about 100 to 150 millimeters, which makes it a lot easier for the floor of the washroom to be cleaned without the base of the WC getting in the way or collecting dirt between the WC and the floor. There are many different styles of WCs available. For example, close-coupled have an exposed cistern made from ceramic and are great for areas which have a small budget or not much space, as they don't need any ducting or boxing to be constructed to hide the cistern. Each WC pan will have one of three types of rims. An open rim, this is an upside-down U-shape, and water flows into the bowl from this all around the edge. A boxed rim is similar to the open rim, but it is closed on the bottom with holes at set points to let the water flow into the bowl. The most recently developed WCs have a flushing design known as rimless. These WCs do not have a rim and have a water outlet at the back of the pan which pushes water around the pan with enough force that the whole surface is cleaned without the need for a rim, making this design very hygienic. For areas where urinals are to be used, there are many things to consider. Firstly, what type of urinal bowl is most appropriate? Concealed trap urinals, such as the one shown in the top left-hand image, have completely hidden surfaces with both the water inlet and the bottle trap from the waste hidden behind ducting. This is ideal in public areas where vandalism could be an issue. An exposed trap urinal bowl will have the bottle trap fitted to the underside of the urinal bowl and be visible to users. If space is at a premium or budgets are tight, then a wall-hung basin would be the best option, as there is no vanity required for the basin to be mounted to. For commercial and education, washroom basins which are installed into a vanity unit are often preferred, as they allow all the services and pipework to be hidden within the unit, making a tidier and more vandal-resistant finish. Although ceramic is the most common material for basins to be manufactured in, they can also be produced in several other materials. These are especially useful if you are specifying for heavily used areas or areas which are prone to vandalism. There are many different styles of taps you will need to consider to make sure you specify the right tap for your projects. In general, single taps are most popular in all sectors. They can either allow the user to control the temperature, normally via a lever, or deliver pre-mixed water at a set temperature. Pairs of taps are still used in some specific areas, in particular dementia care units, as patients recognize a pair of taps easier than a single tap, and many cleaners areas, as it allows water to be delivered at a very hot temperature for cleaning and killing bacteria. Regardless of if you choose a single tap or a pair of taps, how the user operates it will be a key factor in which tap you decide to specify. As with brassware, similar things need consideration when deciding what shower to specify. How the shower is going to be installed is key. If you want to conceal the pipework from the shower valve to the shower head or water outlet, you will need to make sure there is a void for the shower to be installed into or onto. If it is a refurbishment project, you may be constricted by the current layout of the room, and you may not be able to conceal services, so an exposed shower valve may be required. This will allow pipework to be face-fixed to a wall. Within most commercial properties and all those open to the public, there should be provisions for disabled access both in the building itself, ramps, lifts, etc., and also with the washroom facilities. This is normally in the form of a Doc M washroom. We will cover Doc M and the regulations in more detail later in this video. The items that are required to make a wheelchair-accessible Doc M area are normally specified and purchased in a pack, which contains what you need to create a compliant area. The decisions you need to make prior to specification are what type of pack is required. Is it a WC or shower pack? If it is a WC pack, how will it be installed? Will the cistern be concealed or exposed? The packs are normally available in different color options. These relate to the grab rails and the WC seat. All taps in a Doc M pack should have their temperature controlled via a TMV3 valve. In most packs, the tap supplied will have a built-in TMV valve. The final finishing touches to a washroom is often the accessories. Items such as soap dispensers, toilet roll holders and hand dryers are available in lots of different styles, finishes and materials. Depending on the project, some will be more appropriate than others. Washroom installations are often subject to extensive regulations and standards, and an awareness of these at specification stage can often help to avoid problems further down the line. Probably the most commonly acknowledged regulation is the Universal Access Facility under Document M of the Building Regulations. Part M was amended in 2015 and incorporates the changes that were made to the Equality Act 2010. In summary, these changes were made to improve access for everyone rather than just for people with disabilities. An easy rule of thumb is that if you need building regulation approval for the project, you will need to be complying with these regulations. All of these rules apply to educational facilities. BS 8300 highlights the design considerations throughout the building taking into account disabled users' needs, and BS 6465 will indicate the required number of washrooms for any building. We will come back to that one later in more detail. There has been no change to the layout as indicated. It is also no longer sufficient for this area to be isolated and needs to be provided wherever there is a standard male-female washroom. An alternative layout including a second wash basin can also be used in assisted universal access washrooms and must be 2000 by 2200 mm. NB. Doc M requires a WC pan projection of 750 mm, whereas in healthcare the projection is 700 mm. Previously, a basin with a central tap hole was acceptable, but now the tap must be positioned so that it is on the side of the basin nearest the WC. New build layout. This typical layout requirement shows the configuration option for a new building. The guideline for any run of 4 or more cubicles is 2 to be standard, 1 enlarged and 1 ambulant. If you are refurbishing an existing washroom, then you need to ensure that the replacement washroom is as good as what is being removed. Every same-sex washroom must have at least one WC compartment for the ambulant disabled. If there is only one cubicle in the washroom, then it must be ambulant. The ambulant disabled cubicle must include grab rails, 2 at 600 mm horizontal, 1 at 600 mm vertical. A minimum free activity space of 750 mm from the front of the pan to the door. The cubicle must not be narrower than 800 mm. The door swing must not interfere with the free activity space, therefore you are looking at an outward opening door unless the cubicle is very large, 1900 mm plus. Horizontal closing and opening bars are required to each side of the cubicle door. The height to the top of the WC should be 480 mm. Every standard cubicle must have a minimum 450 mm diameter maneuvering space within the cubicle. Doors and bolts that can open with a maximum force of 20 newtons. Indicator bolts and doors that are capable of being operated with a closed fist. Doors that can open even if someone has collapsed inside against the door. An emergency release mechanism that allows doors to open from the outside in an emergency. A standard height WC can be used in this cubicle. Where 4 or more cubicles are provided in a washroom, one of these must be enlarged. The enlarged cubicle must be in addition to the ambulant disabled cubicle and must include a raised height WC at 480 mm high including the seat, a minimum width of 1200 mm, 1 horizontal and 1 vertical grab rail set around the WC, space for shelf and folding changing table, closing and opening bars on the door. The Equality Act replaced the DDA regulations back in 2010. Colour contrast is part of the disability discrimination section covered by the Act. This will have some impact on the aesthetics and the design element of the washroom. All white washrooms are no longer an option. Laminate manufacturers will have charts for all their products clearly outlining the luminescence value of each colour, and a difference of 0.30 between colours is obligatory. It's worth noting that the way a room is to be lit will affect the luminescence value of the selected colours, as will any natural light entering the space. Cubicle door handles and indicator bolts must contrast. The cubicle door must be a different colour to the pilaster. The WC and the urinal must contrast with the panel on which it's mounted. The wash hand basin must contrast in colour with the vanity top. You can see clearly that the colours in the top image would probably not comply. To mention a few of the other requirements that must be adhered to regarding the new Equality Act 2010. All taps must be operable with a closed fist. One urinal and one basin must be set at a lower height. A Dock M urinal is set at a lower lip height and has grab rails for ambulant and disabled users. This is also used for children. Wheelchair access toilets must not be used as baby change facilities. A unisex wheelchair access toilet must be provided wherever there is a standard male-female washroom, as we mentioned earlier. If your building has only provision for a wheelchair-accessible unisex toilet, then it should be larger and incorporate an additional wash-hand basin set at a height suitable for standing use, e.g. 800 to 830 mm. Now we will look at two standards in more detail. The first is relating to the scale of provisions. This document provides recommendations for the scale of provision, selection and installation of sanitary appliances. It is divided into the table shown here and advises on the number of fittings required for each different building type and application, and also the number of fittings required in relation to each other. To illustrate, by way of some examples, in a secondary school you would need to provide one fitting for every 20 pupils, with the minimum number of fittings being 4. In this example, the term fittings applies to the sum of the WCs and the urinals. 2 wash hand basins will need to be provided for every 3 fittings. So, 4 WCs and 2 urinals will require 4 wash hand basins, while 5 WCs and 3 urinals will also need 4 wash hand basins. The HTM's Health Technical Memorandum. The new document for best practice guidance is called Health Building Note 0010, Performance Requirements for Building Elements Used in Healthcare Facilities. HBN 0010 supersedes HTM 56, 60, 61, 64 sanitary assemblies, 68 duct and panel assemblies, and 69. The document is driven by 3 key drivers: building, the standardization and pre-assembly of components, as well as flexibility, adaptability, and security. This can be addressed through standardizing product through the use of one product, pre-assembled units, and lockable panels. Maintenance, durability, life cycle, and maintenance costs, along with sustainability. This can be addressed through correct specification of materials, hinged panels to replace lift-off panels where possible, sensor taps, reduced or dual flush volumes, and urinal sensors can all reduce water usage. Hygiene. Patient safety and hygiene is of the utmost importance. Exposed surfaces should be smooth and easily cleaned. Sensor taps and no overflows all reduce the risk of infection. Plugs only to be used in private bathrooms. We've included some typical guideline costs for you here. Finally, 3 examples of sanitary ware specified appropriately for its environment. This first example is a high-end residential application fitted with vessel basins and mixer taps. In this education application, semi-recessed basins were specified to provide easy access for young children, along with self-closing toggle taps to control water usage. Lastly, for this healthcare environment, HBN-compliant clinical wash hand basins and taps were specified. For the room to the bottom right, a wheelchair-accessible Dock M washroom was specified. So, to summarize, these are the main criteria that you as specifiers should consider when specifying washroom products and systems. By taking all these factors into consideration at the specification stage of your project, your clients will be assured of a washroom that is fit for purpose, meets their vision, is easy to clean, simple to maintain, and most importantly, fits their wallet. Contractors will find that the procurement procedure and the installation suits their type of contract, and you, as specifiers, will be assured that all the regulations and standards have been met. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to find out more, please visit the swc.co.uk.